GamerSpawn. In 2007, the Assassin's Creed franchise launched with a bang, as the first game in the series introduced us to its innovative stealth and parkour mechanics, as well as an original sci-fi storyline with a historical time-traveling twist. Though the game wasn't perfect, as it was criticized for a simplistic combat system and repetitiveness during its long single-player campaign, it established the series as a AAA property and demonstrated the worthiness of its new approach to the stealth action genre. In an era when seemingly every major release is a sequel, spin-off, or remake, Ubisoft took a big risk with an all-new IP, and it paid off big, both in terms of its sales numbers and in creating an awesome new game series adored by millions of fans the world over. But the game's developers weren't content with simply leaving well enough alone. With each successive sequel, Ubisoft introduced brand new mechanics, integrating improvements such as improved NPC AI, larger open-world regions, innovative mission-based multiplayer modes, and vastly refined combat, movement, and stealth systems. The most recent game in the series, Assassin's Creed III, transplanted the series into a wildly different setting as it told the story of assassin Desmond and his ancestors' action-packed experiences during the American Revolution. There is little doubt that Ubisoft sees the franchise as a vehicle for telling varied and interesting stories, while little by little packing brand new mechanics and experiences into each volume. There's perhaps no greater evidence of this innovative approach than the premise and setting of the upcoming Assassin's Creed IV, Black Flag. The most cataclysmic shift in the series' historical environment and world structure since AC3, Black Flag will transport players into the swashbuckling, dangerous adventures of 18th century pirates on the high seas. Not only will the classic stealth and combat systems be returning in an augmented version, but players will now be able to roam the open seas in protagonist smuggler Edward Kenway's infamous pirate ship, the Jacktar. While we've yet to see how the developers are going to pull it all together in a satisfying way, the idea of being able to roam and explore the Caribbean during the height of the piracy age is simply tantalizing. Ubisoft claims they're putting a huge emphasis on the believability and fluidity of the game world, portraying a dark, detailed world that players are free to discover without ever breaking a sense of immersion. Rather than using the pirate ship as a simple traveling mechanic, the developers wanted to craft it into a method to freely wander and unearth the world's secrets at will. If they are successful in achieving their vision, they'll have molded a game world that appears both logical and majestic in its design. While Disney's adrenaline-fueled Pirates of the Caribbean films are perhaps the best-known modern depiction of the sea piracy era, the story Ubisoft aims to tell through the eyes of pirate Edward Kenway is a far grittier tale, full of intrigue, blackmail, and secrecy. That's not to say that the game won't feature epic battles to rival even the biggest Hollywood blockbusters, but if the designers are able to live up to their vision, gamers will be far more emotionally vested in the trials and tribulations of the characters, who may not always have hearts of gold. This focus on telling a story that features the real dark side of piracy isn't always a pretty sight, but Ubisoft saw an opportunity to tell a story that isn't always fit for the big screen. Building on the story structure of previous AC games, the developers have attempted to build the plot around believable characters from the beginning of the development cycle. Each character will have motivations and desires that come into conflict both with other people's interests as well as their own consciences. Protagonist Edward Kenway has been created to offer a new three-dimensional character with approaches to situations that are entirely unique from the previous game's heroes and anti-heroes. While Assassin's Creed's core blend of stealth, open-world exploration, and fluid combat will remain mostly intact, Ubisoft has called all hands on deck as the company rushes to implement some big gameplay changes before the game's fall release. Some big new gameplay features include ship-to-ship combat, hunting and harpooning systems, and robust and meaningful leveling mechanics for the player's sea vessel as well as his character. Finally, a totally overhauled stealth system will be in place in an attempt to streamline and simplify character movement and detection when sneaking around to nefarious ends. Of course, no AAA release is complete without the requisite improvements to the graphics, audio, and overall presentation of the game, and Assassin's Creed IV is no exception. Black Flag will be coded for both the current aging generation of consoles as well as the emerging generation, including the Wii U and the as-yet unreleased PlayStation 4. And since a huge chunk of the game takes place on the dangerous waters of the Caribbean, Ubisoft is pouring a massive amount of development resources into getting the look, feel, and behavior of the ocean's turbulent waves just right, along with the core of the graphics engine. There's no telling whether Ubisoft will be able to achieve the mammoth undertaking of AC4's development to the looming expectations of its fan base. But if the developers are able to pull it off, Black Flag looks to take the series in bold, exciting new directions when it hits the PC and gaming consoles this October. Stay tuned to GamerSpawn for all your news and updates on Assassin's Creed 4 and other upcoming titles.